So I just saw the best animated boat movie in theaters right now, and I am not talking about Moana 2. No, instead I saw the movie Flow. So this movie's sort of a big deal to people like me, I guess to like animation fans. I don't really think it's a big deal to just the general public. They probably don't even know this exists. This film is directed by a Latvia director by the name of Gins Zilbalodi. You know, until making this video, I didn't even know Latvia was a thing, so goes to show what I know about real-world events. I'm too busy watching movies to care about geography. Flow is a movie that takes place in what appears to be a fantasy world. There's no humans. The focus is very much on animals. It may even be apocalyptic. That aspect is vague. It's kind of up to your own interpretation. But in this fantasy world, water is constantly rising, the whole area is being flooded. So our main protagonist of the film, a ordinary cat who is just trying to survive, finds itself on a boat along with a capybara, a lemur, a dog, and some sort of bird. I'm sure there's a name for that type of bird, but I don't know what it is. These animals must then set aside their differences and learn to work together if they want to survive. You know, just sounds like an ordinary kids film. But there's a catch to all of this, and that is the fact that these animals don't talk. This is not something we get super often, these animated films where there is just no dialogue. Although we did get Robot Dreams last year, so I guess there's that. Did anyone see Robot Dreams, by the way? I saw it. I really like that one. I just never got a chance to talk about it on this channel. Tell me your thoughts on Robot Dreams in the comments. I'm curious about that. But that's definitely a more cartoony film. It's a lot more exaggerated. The characters are a lot more anthropomorphized. There's like pop music in it. But this one, it's something completely new. Like I've never seen an animated film like this before. It is a film where not a lot happens, but just enough happens. This movie is really all about the tone. The characters of this film don't even have names. And that part does not matter because it's more of a film trying to evoke a feeling in the audience, and it's very interpretive. It's very much like looking at a painting and trying to form your own interpretation of it. You know, it's kind of funny because this movie came out right after Wild Robot, and I remember when Wild Robot had its trailer, everyone assumed that the animals didn't talk in that, and I loved Wild Robot. I thought that was a great movie, but I mean, if anyone was upset about that movie having talking animals in it, fortunately, this movie came out right after it, so you have no reason to complain. Just go check out Flow. This is a film that is carried by some absolutely beautiful animation, beautiful music, really impressive sound effects. This thing should have been an IMAX movie. I know it wasn't made for IMAX specifically, but just in terms of the sound, it's one of the best sounding movies I've seen all year. The animal movement here is very lifelike. The animals, as the film progresses, there's little hints of anthropomorphism there where they do start to act more like a human would act in certain situations. But it's very subtle, and it's done where you hardly even notice it at first. The music in this film was fantastic. There's bits of it that really sounded just like something out of Minecraft. This film is quite surreal. It's very dreamlike, and above all, there's this really strong video game feel to it. And I feel like some people might think that saying something like that kind of lessens the artistic value of it, but I think most people who watch my videos are smart enough to see the artistry that so many games carry. There were plenty of games that this reminded me of. I think the ones that it most reminded me of were, well, first of all, Stray. I never actually played Stray, but you know, there's cats in both of them. Cat doesn't talk in either one, so you get the idea. The other games that I saw a connection to were Journey, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Breath of the Wild, and I guess Wind Waker because it's got a sailboat in it, Minecraft, Myst, Subnautica because there's bits of ocean horror in here, and Metal Gear Solid. And I say that because it's just the way that the camera moves in this film. It has this very like floaty, documentary-esque quality to it that in many ways reminded me of cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid games. But overall, I think that most of the games that this reminded me of were more of the lighthearted indie, relaxing adventure games. Oddly enough, it felt like a film like this, even if it was unintentionally, it was kind of proving that video games are art. You know, all while not being a video game. But I think if you told someone that watched this movie that there are several games that have this sort of feel to it, then I think it might kind of pique their interest. It might even cause them to reevaluate their beliefs. I don't know. I don't play as much video games as I used to, but I would actually love to see more films like this that sort of fill that void. This really felt to me like an indie creator that put their heart and soul into a project. I like how this film managed to incorporate bits of fantasy into it without ever taking you out of the world that it created. It all felt very natural within itself. And this movie was never boring. I was intrigued the whole way through, which is actually a lot harder than it sounds when there's no dialogue. The music in this is just very subtle, it's atmospheric, but it does exactly what it needs to do in conveying the emotion through visuals. This thing was animated in Blender for only like $4 million, which is just fucking insane. Like, that's so hard to believe. Plus, it was made with a small team of, I think, less than 50 artists, which I don't know how they did it. You know, I don't know how something like this gets made, but I'm glad it's doing well. It's already won quite a few awards, some of which includes several awards at the Annecy Film Festival, and it even won the Best Animated Feature at the European Film Awards. But I see this film as proof of creative integrity. You can make these beautiful movies that really connect with people still in this day and age, and still at a very low cost. I want to say it's the kind of animated film they don't make anymore, but that would be implying that they ever made animated films like this to begin with. And I also don't want to lessen the sheer creativity of all of these other indie animated films out there. I mean, there's a lot of incredible animation being made every year that goes mostly unnoticed. Now, if I am to recommend this film, I think a lot of people who like animation are going to love this, if you kind of understand the amount of work that goes into it. However, if you're a little kid, it's kind of 50-50 on whether or not you're going to love this film. I think kids are smarter than a lot of movie studios give them credit for, but I could see some kids being kind of bored by all of this. It just depends on, I guess, if you know what type of kid you have and how they're going to react to something like this. But personally, I think this might actually be my favorite animated film of 2024. Which is high praise because Wild Robot came out this year and I really like that one too. But I do highly recommend Flow. I think it is just a wonderful movie. Not much more to say beyond that. Definitely go check it out if it interests you. Thank you for watching. Feel free to check out some of the other videos on my channel. You all take care now. Goodbye.